Welcome, dear viewers of DMR TV, to this our weekly program, Purposeful Leadership, with me, Reverend Father Kirsten Nyamjongong Bimi. Today we continue to put more emphasis or to share with you a lot on the leader's relationship with his enemies and friends. And today we are going to lay emphasis, we are going to underline the topic: a leader does not wish the death of his enemies, but he loves them, he pardons them. Today we are going to look at this and see how the leaders can help their enemies in one way or the other to conversion. This is what we shall be talking about today. Before we set ourselves for this, let us ask for a musical interlude before we come back.
Domine Deus filius patris miserere nos.
Thank you very much for that musical interlude. Today we are going to look at a Christian and humanistic perspective on mercy, on justice, and on leadership. We have said so far that the leaders should be aware of the existence of enemies. And so we invite them not to practice vengeance, not to practice hatred, but to bring them to conversion. Leadership is not simply about exercising power or defeating your opponents. It's all about whether political or religious or social, it demands some moral integrity, restraint, and above all, a refusal to let hatred rule over the heart of every leader. So we know that the enemies, they exist. So we want to help the leaders to know that they should not allow hatred to rule their heart. Because when hatred rules their heart, they will be tempted to revenge. A leader does not wish the death of his enemies, but their conversion, reform, or reconciliation. This is not a weakness, but it's a moral greatness rooted in the belief that every person retains some human dignity, even in failure or in enmity. So we need not wish them evil, but we should wish them good as leaders. They are there, but you should practice what the servant leader Jesus Christ taught us. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. Jesus, who went under torture, underwent torture, torment, and all that he went through, had the past, had the heart, the good heart to forgive his enemies. So, this one we're going to visit the biblical foundations. As the Lord says, as I live, I take no pleasure in the death of a wicked, but rather that they turn from their ways and live. Confer the prophet Ezekiel from chapter 33, verse 11. Confer again the prophet Ezekiel from chapter 18, verses 32. So this set the divine standard that God does not rejoice in the destruction, but in redemption. God wishes that a bad person should be converted, that he should change his heart, and that he should live. As we put it in pidgin, God in no one bad man he die, but he better live and he change he had. This is what the leaders are called to practice. Not wishing the enemy's death, but praying for their conversion, trying to bring them to conversion and not destroying them. A leader who models God's heart desires justice. That is a restorative justice and not a vindictive justice. If you are taking God as an example, you need to practice restorative justice and not vindictive justice. That you tit for tat, eye for an eye. No, that is not what the servant leader teaches. We also see in Luke chapter 6 verses 27 to 28, where Jesus says that we love our enemies, do good to those who hate us, bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you. Jesus' call to love enemies is not optional for Christian leaders. It is therefore, dear viewers, essential to gospel leadership. We were tempted to visit the views of the church fathers and the magisterium. And we started with St. Augustine. St. Augustine from 354 to 430 AD. He says, we hate the vice and not the person. The correction of a brother ought to proceed from love, not from a desire to destroy. Confer letter 95 of St. Augustine. St. Augustine teaches that justice and mercy must go together. A leader must protect the good, but hope for the reform of the wicked. That is what St. Augustine is teaching. And we also saw with St. Thomas Aquinas from the year 1225 to 1274. He says that mercy without justice is the mother of dissolution. Justice without mercy is cruelty. Confer Summa Theologia, Book 2, question 30 of St. Thomas Aquinas. Aquinas presents mercy as the highest attribute of God, and hence of godly leadership. Therefore, he who is a leader, we must temper justice with mercy and never vengeance. We temper justice with mercy. That is what St. Thomas is teaching in this question 20 of Summa Theologia. We also visited the Catechism of the Catholic Church in paragraph 2306, which says that the Church urges everyone to prayer and action so that the divine image in each person may be respected even in enemies. We also visited the Catechism of the Catholic Church from paragraph 1931, which says that respect for the human person proceeds by way of respect for the principle that everyone should look upon his neighbor without any exception as another self. We also visited the encyclica of Pope Francis, which says that even those who do evil retain the image of God. So, to wish for their destruction is to forget the cross of Christ. Confer Fratelli Tutti in paragraph 192. Pope Francis teaches in this Fratelli Tutti, in this encyclica, that universal fraternity includes even our adversaries. And politics must be founded on mercy and dialogue, not annihilation. We find it difficult to see leaders or those who are in politics, they come to dialogue. It is difficult to find it. And so Pope Francis in this encyclical Fratelli Tutti in paragraph 192 is inviting dialogue, is imposing dialogue as the best way to go about it. We also see with some authors, before we get to those other secular authors, I would like to put this to you. We know the history of Pope St. John Paul II, who in 1981, that is on the 13th of May 1981, was shot by a young Turkish by name Mehmet Ali Aga, and Pope John Paul II survived. And when he survived, history tells us that in 1983 he visited the prison and went to see this young man, Mehmet Ali, who shot him. And we are told that in the year 2000, St. John Paul II forgave this young man who shot him. If it were in our days, we will find that the leader will ask that this man pay the price. But St. John Paul II asked that this young man who almost took his life be forgiven, and he reconciled with him. And so we need to learn from some of these persons who have taught us. It is the contrary with some of our leaders today, that we instead practice vengeance instead of mercy, instead of forgiveness. We were pushed to visit some secular authors like Abraham Lincoln from the year 1809 to 1865. Abraham Lincoln, during the American Civil War, resisted revenge politics. In his second inaugural address, he said, "Do I not destroy any enemies when I make them my friends?" End of quote. His leadership was rooted in moral humility and reconciliation. He epitomized in his second inaugural address that with malice towards none, with charity for all. His leadership was centered on humility and reconciliation. We also see another figure, Mahatma Gandhi, from 1869 to 1948. In his book titled The Non-Violence in Peace and War, La Non-Violence, Mahatma Gandhi is popularly known. And he said that an eye for an eye will leave the whole world blind. Mahatma Gandhi modeled non-violence and forgiveness, understanding that lasting peace cannot come through retribution. He taught non-violence, forgiveness. We also saw the figure Martin Luther King Jr. from 1929 to 1968. In his book titled The Strength to Love, he said, "Returning hate for hate multiplies hate. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love. Only love can do that." He grounded his leadership on Christian ethic, on the Christian ethic of agape love. A love that seeks not the death of the enemy, but their conversion and reconciliation. We also see another figure, Nelson Mandela, from 1918 to 2013. In The Long Walk to Freedom, he said that if you want to make peace with your enemy, you have to walk with your enemy. Then he becomes your partner. End of quote. So after 27 years in prison, we are told that Nelson Mandela led with forgiveness, not revenge. He had the powers to do that. Remember, I said earlier that no matter the strength, no matter the power that you have, it's not about exercising the power, defeating your opponent. But when he became president of South Africa, he did not exercise power upon his opponents. What did he practice? Forgiveness. After spending 27 years in prison in Molokai. Nelson Mandela's legacy is a global example of moral leadership in the face of injustice. That is what we are talking about. That our leaders should learn to forgive their enemies. They are around you. We accept that they exist. They want you in another way. But you should also practice what the servant leader teaches us, which is to love your enemies. Love those who hate you. Sometimes I've learned to practice that, and I've seen that it pays. Once you forgive your enemies, once you forgive them, you reconcile with them, you love them, God continues to bless you. God will continue to protect you. That is the secret behind all that. Let us see some of the moral and political implications. And the first that I want to bring forward is, let me say, the strength versus weakness. Some see forgiveness as a weakness. No, it is not. But it is, in fact, the greatest strength of a leader to show mercy when vengeance is possible. We also see that power restrained is more dignified than power abused. Mercy offered is more transformative than punishment imposed. Another moral implication is that restorative versus retributive justice. Christian leadership calls for what? For restorative justice. Seeking the healing of the person, the community, and the offender. And the third moral implication here is you need to be leading by example. A leader who models mercy forms a culture that values dialogue, conversion, rehabilitation, and dignity rather than of retaliation. Let us visit political application or implications here. For political leaders, I will propose that we avoid inflammatory rhetoric. I also propose that we promote restorative justice programs. I also propose that we seek reconciliation, not humiliation in victory. And for church leaders, permit me propose this to you. Preach forgiveness and the dignity of the human person. Also, refuse to demonize opponents, even in theological debates. For church leaders, you are called to build a culture of pastoral charity. For parents and teachers, this is what you are called to do. Correct with love, not with anger. And another point is that you need to teach conflict resolutions, not punishment. And for parents and teachers, we need to be models of the mercy of the Father. Of the mercy of the Father. You see, we see that some of our leaders, some of our directors, some people who are at the head of every institution, every organization, or whatsoever, once they have the opportunity to exercise their powers, the first thing they do is to defeat their opponents. They want to prove a point. They want to show that they are the ones in charge. But being in charge does not mean you should be fighting those who did not want you. Instead, you should show them love. You should forgive them. And sometimes our missions are not attained. Our objectives are not attained because we spend much time concentrating on those distractions, on those we think that they hate us, instead of applying the energy, the strength, or whatsoever the intelligence on what we are supposed to do. It is only when we show them love that God continues to help. The servant leader guides us to attain that objective. We need, as leaders, not fight our opponents. We should instead bring them to conversion. We should love them. We should forgive them. We should reconcile with them. And it is very beautiful when someone hates you and you show him love. Very beautiful. It also shows maturity. Some leaders will want to fight their opponents. It is not the option. The option is to love and to forgive and to reconcile with them. We have come out with some figures, which I think these figures led exemplary lives, and we are supposed to copy. Supposed to live this life they propose to us. Jesus, in his greatest moment of authority on the cross, said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. Luke chapter 23, verses 34. This is true leadership. It is a refusal to let hatred win. It is a refusal to destroy your enemies. It is a refusal to pay evil with evil. It is a refusal to punish, to impose punishment. It is a refusal to practice vengeance. It is a refusal to let hatred win, even when one holds all the power. So, dear leaders, let us imitate such leadership in our homes. Let us imitate such leadership in our parishes. Let us imitate such leadership in our nation. Let us imitate such leadership in our institutions. Let us imitate such leadership in our companies. Let us imitate such leadership in our dioceses and other places. Leaders who do not wish the death of their enemies, but their return to life, but their reformation, but their conversion. That is what we are talking about. Chers téléspectateurs de Divine Mercy Radio and Television, l'accent était mis aujourd'hui sur le fait que le leader ne souhaite pas la mort de ses ennemis, mais il les ramène à la conversion, il les ramène à la transformation. Il ne les détruit pas, il les aide à se transformer. Parce que Jésus lui-même a demandé sur la croix que Père, pardonne-le parce qu'ils ne savent pas ce qu'ils font. Voilà ce que Jésus nous a proposé. Et nous avons cité quelques leaders, quelques auteurs qui nous ont proposé la non-violence, comme Mahatma Gandhi, qui nous a proposé la non-violence. Nelson Mandela, qui a proposé le pardon envers ses ennemis. Nous avons toute l'information sur Nelson Mandela, comment il était en prison 27 ans. Mais qu'est-ce qu'il a fait après? Il est venu et il a pardonné. Il a pardonné. Voilà ce que nous avons proposé aux leaders. Que chaque leader doit pardonner. Chaque leader doit aimer. Il ne souhaite pas la mort de ses ennemis. Le leader, un vrai leader, ne souhaite pas la mort de ses ennemis. Voilà ce que, en quelque sorte ce que nous avons dit dans cette édition de notre programme hebdomadaire. Et voilà les efforts fournis que notre nation, notre paroisse, nos diocèses, nos institutions, nos écoles, lieux de travail, que ça soit bon. Et pour que nous avons de bons leaders dignes de son nom. And we come to the end of this program, and we want to thank all those who have contributed to the realization of this edition. And we wish that what we have proposed for our leaders may be put into practice, and we see how beautiful we shall build the dioceses, our institutions, and the world at large. And we come to the end of this program with me, Reverend Father Kirsten Nyamjo, and see you next week, same time on Purposeful Leadership. May God bless you.